Welcome, everybody, to Tectonic Takes. I actually have a really special guest today. You guys all know him. He's the original Quakes Talk, Alex Morgan from Black and Azul. What's up, man? Welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. You guys have been doing great work at Tectonic Takes, and I'm really happy to join y'all.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that. But again, if you don't know him, or you really probably do, but where can you find where can you find your work, Alex?
So you can find me on Twitter at Quakes_talk. You can find me, my written work is at quakestalk.com. And then I'm also a co-host at Black and Azul. So you can follow all of our channels on Twitter and YouTube and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and they have exciting stuff coming up this season. I know they're going to meet up pretty soon, right? Is that correct, Alex?
Yes, we have big plans for this year, and we should be returning in fairly short order. So yeah, do keep your eyes peeled for that.
Sweet. And me as a fan, I'm excited too. So I can't wait. I can't wait for the season to start and the Black and Azul team to get back together. It's going to be fun. All right.
Absolutely.
So, lots to talk about this offseason, right? So a whole bunch of new faces, kind of familiar faces, I guess, to Almeida, but new faces to us. What's your first generalization of the offseason? How do you feel? Just first glance, what do you think?
I would say my initial reaction is that I have been underwhelmed thus far with all of the business that the Quakes have done over the offseason. I think that they had a huge opportunity this winter to really take the team to another level. They were clearing a lot of contracts off of the books. Danny Husen,
right.
Vaco, Guram Cascio, tons of players, and they had an opportunity, I think, to replace those guys with some, elite MLS level players. Mm-hmm. And I think with the business that they've done so far, particularly bringing in Chofis for Vaco, and then most recently Abakasis for Lima, thus far, I think it's my reaction is that it's more taking like two big steps sideways than it is making the team any better. And with all the other moves that the teams around them, particularly in the Western Conference, are making, I'm concerned that won't be good enough this year to make the playoffs again. Now there is still time left before the season starts. Preseason is starting basically today, the day we're recording this. There is still time left, and I think if the team goes out and into the transfer market and fills one of the DP spots that they have with either a DP number 9 or a DP level center back, then I think that will make the team, substantially better. And I can see them being, a real force in the Western Conference this year. But thus far, I'm a little bit underwhelmed with the moves they've made this winter. And I should add that, they've done a lot of moves that they've made, have been positive. I think bringing back Chris Ronalowski for another year is fantastic. All Quakes fans should be happy to see him returning. Bringing back Shea Salinas, I think, was a great move. Signing Eric Rometti, I actually think that was a fantastic move that Jesse Fiorinelli and Matias Almeida made. But I just think that the most important transfers that they've made so far, which are Chofis and Abakasis, haven't really hit it for me. And I hope that they prove me wrong. I hope that those players both exceed expectations. But right now, I'm a little bit underwhelmed.
Okay, and that's fair. Do you think that Chofis' ceiling is the same as Vaco's? Do you think that maybe Chofis will mix better with these group guys, or is it? Do you feel like it's going to be like maybe it's not the bounce back year we all expect?
I mean, Chofis is obviously a very high risk signing, right? Given the recent history he's had in Chivas, he had a lot of disciplinary issues there. He sort of lacked reform for the last couple of years. It's a very high risk signing, and so that concerns me, number one. And number two, I just see him as a very similar player to Vaca. I see that as very much a like-for-like replacement, both in terms of the playing style and sort of the ceiling that they have. If you look at Vaca's numbers over the last couple of years, they haven't been terrible.
Yeah,
he's had streaks of form where he actually contributed, a lot to the team. But he never really heated up, and he never really took the team to the next level.
Right.
And my concern is that Chofis is kind of more of the same, in that he won't be able to he won't be a significant improvement on Vaca. And again, I hope he proves me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's sort of how I see the transfer so far.
Even if it's a like for like, do you think that the team chemistry will be a tad bit better on that offensive side with Chofis kind of stepping in, with Fierro maybe combining with Espinoza a little better?
I mean, I really hope so, because
yeah.
Otherwise, the transfer policy that Matias Almeida has, which is basically only signing players that have played for him before.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it seems kind of stupid, right?
Right.
You hope that there's the advantage that, he's already played with Almeida. Almeida, he's a known quantity to Almeida, and that he can integrate into the system and into the team really seamlessly, right? That is the benefit of the purported benefit of the system. Sort of the transfer recruitment strategy that Almeida has had. So I hope so. And I think there's a good chance that happens.
Okay.
But
we'll
see.
Yeah, right. We'll see. It's going to be
matters.
exciting, right? So, so talking a little bit about Luciano Abacasis and Nick Lima. Looking back on the Nick Lima trade, in retrospect, does this look like a good trade to you because we got Luciano Abacasis, or does it look more of a kind of, to me, it looked a little bit like a backup plan? If we were going to get Layun, I mean, if we traded Nick Lima, we should have had a plan in place, right? So it's nice to know that they did have a backup plan, and we got Luciano Abacasis, in my opinion.
Yes. It's good that the team got somebody to replace Nick Lima. That's not always a given with the Quakes, right? But I think, given the situation, it's a decent piece of business. I just think it's unfortunate that the Quakes got put in the situation or created the situation in which they had to sell Nick Lima at all. A couple of years ago, he was one of their most promising young players. He's played for the U.S. men's national team, still got a lot of years left in his career, and I think he was happy in San Jose. And so the fact that the Quakes had to sell him, the fact that Matias Almeida couldn't make it work with him, and from the start, Matias Almeida didn't really favor Nick Lima. I think it was Matias Almeida's first season. Nick Lima went to the U.S. men's national team January camp, instead of preseason in Cancun. And it just felt like, right from the start, that got off on the wrong foot for them. And their relationship never really looked like it recovered. And so that's really unfortunate that the Quakes had to let go of Nick Lima. And I think mostly because you're not going to really get an upgrade over Nick Lima. You're not going to be able to find another young national team level sort of local player to fill that role.
Right.
And I think that Abacasis is probably a downgrade, right? He's over the last couple of years, he's been playing in Paraguay, I believe. He hasn't really had a ton of minutes at a top level team, and in part because because of COVID and the restrictions and sort of transferring teams at the beginning of 2020 and all the scheduling issues that Paraguayan leagues had. But also it's because, I think he was best from around 2016 to 2018 when he was playing in Argentina. And he's kind of tailed off since then. And he's already 31. So it doesn't really feel like a really strong long-term solution, long-term replacement for Nick Lima to me. And I think I'm hopeful that he'll be able to fill that role this season, and that, he can contribute to the team this season, but it really feels like a short-term solution to a long-term issue for me.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from, and that's definitely what it looks like. Maybe they think Paul Marie can step in, or maybe they think that they have some sort of RB for the future, or maybe Almeida's even thinking, hey, in 2 years I'm not here, so that's not my problem. So,
it's interesting that you say that, because this was actually the first transfer that sort of made me wonder that myself. I know that I got asked this on Twitter that some people were pointing out, hey, all these 1-year deals kind of make it seem like Almeida is going to leave. And I think that actually 1-year deals make a ton of sense.
Right.
It sort of hedges against a lot of risk. If transfers don't work out, if you have high risk players like Chofis, or if you have a sort of lesser known quantities. I think Judson was probably the best example of that when he came from Brazil a couple of years ago. So 1-year deals are usually good, but I don't really see it here because, he's not a particularly high risk player, I don't think. And at least I hope not, because right now he's kind of their only option at right back other than Tommy Thompson. And, he's already a known quantity. Matias Almeida, he's played for Matias Almeida before. Yeah. So the fact that it's a 1-year deal this time kind of suggests to me that it's a short-term solution and that Matias Almeida might only be thinking about this year and maybe the next year, but not much, longer beyond that.
And and in modern football, if a coach stays at a club for more than 4 years, right, that's insane. So guys, start getting ready. Maybe Almeida's not here in 2 years. So, but who knows, right? Who knows? Maybe he likes San Jose, the quiet life. He lives.
Well, he's talked about that. He does. Yeah. He absolutely does. Yeah. He has cited that as one of his main reasons for, enjoying it so much in San Jose. And I think also something that we haven't discussed, that hasn't really been discussed in the Quake community, is that I think it's a relatively safe place to be during the COVID pandemic in the United States. It, probably puts him months, if not years ahead in the sort of the line to get a COVID vaccine. Yeah. And, it's a lot safer here than it might be if he played in, other places in South America or Latin America. And so I think that's probably a huge draw for him and one of the reasons that he decided to stay here this season. And maybe that's a factor even going into 2022.
Yeah, and like you completely hit it on the nail. I mean, in South America right now, they're still lagging a little bit on the vaccine, so they're going to take a little longer to get back to normalcy, while the United States is actually killing it right now. I'm in Japan, but I look at the news all the time, and you guys are doing a great job with just vaccinating a lot of people, and you see people on social media like, hey, I got vaccinated, so it looks like things are turning around, and we might even see fans this year, right? I mean, maybe.
I'm hopeful. Yeah. I'm hopeful by midsummer or by fall we can see fans in stadiums again. I know that, last season, I actually think the Quakes did a great job of getting fans into Earthquake Stadium via the sort of the drive-in program that they had, where you could drive in, watch the game on the lawn, on sort of the big scoreboard, big screen at Earthquake Stadium. And so that was super fun. But, obviously it's not the same as having fans in person in the stands, butts and seats,
Yeah, I'm also just thinking about maybe they just rent out Stanford Stadium the whole year so they can really socially distance people.
Stanford Stadium is one of my favorite stadiums in the world. So it's just absolutely beautiful there. So I would be all for that proposal. Yeah.
Those tailgates are the best. So especially for the Classicos, I was just thinking about the Classicos, and man, how nice would it be to have one this year?
Very, very fun memories from Stanford Stadium.
Okay, so going back to this team, what do you feel like we still need improvements? I know you were talking about maybe a DP level 9 or a DP level, center back. Do you think they'll do that? I think Jamin said that they would possibly wait till the summer for a 9, but a center back can be possible right now.
Yeah, it's difficult because essentially the way they have filled out their roster is that they have a lot of like TAM level players, right? If you think about the front line, they have Fierro, Wando, Chofis, Rios, Espinosa. Yeah. Espinosa is more of a DP level player, but they have like kind of 4 players for 3 spots, and they're all TAM level, and they've all started in the past. And so, you think, well, maybe they think they can get away with that. Maybe they think that's all they need. But really looking at this team, I think to take it to the next level, they just need to fill one of those DP spots. Yeah. And then the roster is going to be kind of cluttered, and they maybe have a starting level player like Andy Rios, who isn't in the lineup every week. But that's a good thing, right? That's a good problem to have.
Especially this year, right?
Especially this year with all the scheduling stuff. And players going away to the Olympics, probably like Jackson Ewell and JT Marcinkowski. So I do think they should. Absolutely they should. And I see the need actually more at the number 9 position. I think they would benefit more from a new starting number 9. And that's because I see the center back situation. I think they might be okay there. Between Florian Youngworth and
Alanis.
Osvaldo
Yeah.
Alanis. They actually put together a pretty decent string of performances in October at the end of last year when they sort of got their form together and they figured out the sort of starting lineup. They actually, I think, did pretty decently, and they allowed a little over a goal per game, but I wasn't particularly worried about their back line in that situation. And they also have Tanner Beeson, who did well as a backup. And then my one sort of hot take is that I'm hoping that this can be a breakout year for Jacob Akonrij. I know last season he played one game against the Portland Timbers, and I think it might have been a shutout or it might have been a 1-1 draw. I think it might have been a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, it was a very low-scoring game. I do remember that.
Very low-scoring game.
Yep.
The Quakes kind of controlled it, and they looked really solid at the back. And what was unfortunate is that he went out with injury that game. He went out with, I think that was the stage of the season where everybody was getting an upper thigh injury.
Yeah, just a knock. Yeah.
Yeah, he went out with an upper thigh injury, and we never got to see him again. But I'm really hopeful that this year, he can have a breakout year. And so I think in terms of a long-term solution, he could figure into that picture. I think Jesse Fiorinelli could be thinking, if I wait a year, 2 years, maybe Jacob Akonrij is the long-term solution at center back. So, if it really isn't working, then of course they should go out in the summer and sign, another center back. But I'm actually willing to give those 4 players a chance there. And I think they're prepared and set up for success than, the front line is at this moment.
That's Tanner Beeson, Jacob Akonrij, and as well as Florian Numvert and Alanis, correct? Those 4?
Yeah.
Is that, okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tanner Beeson, he's had some rough games, but he had a little stretch there where, maybe in 2 years, this guy could be our center back of the future as well. So who knows? We might have a Jacob and Tanner, pairing in the back. So we'll see.
I mean, I don't want to rule it out. I think that he is a lot later in his developmental pathway. I think he's already like 23, 24. So I don't know how much more room he has to grow, but he already is, I think, a pretty solid backup. So I'm not worried about him at all. I think he'll probably figure into Fiorinelli's plans for the next 3-4 years at least.
Okay. And then, so what's your starting lineup? If the season started today, what's your starting lineup today?
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward at the back line. You got to have JT Marcinkowski, Flo Alanis, Abakasis, and Lopez. I think that's pretty nailed down already. So no Vega right there at all. Nope. JT Marcinkowski won that starting spot. We had this conversation a lot on Black and Azul last year. I mean, Vega will be the starter most likely when JT Marcinkowski goes away to the Olympics, most likely. So yes, Vega will probably get that starting spot back at some point this year. But JT is the long-term person for that position.
Definitely. So, yeah. And then we're looking at the starting now midfielders. Who do you have?
Definitely Jackson Ewell and Judson. They've been phenomenal for the last 2 years for the Quakes.
Yeah.
They formed a really dynamic partnership, and I think I think they're locked in. I see Eric Rometty more as a backup. And he's a great backup to have. He started most of the last 2-3 years for Atlanta. And again, he will also step into the starting role once Jackson Ewell probably goes to the Olympics.
Yeah, and that one's very likely compared to the JT one. But JT is probably going to.
Yeah, they both figured into the recent. They just announced like the qualifying for the qualifying games. They were both in like the 23-man roster, so that's a good sign for both of them. Cade Cowell was not, even though Cade Cowell was in I think the January training camp. He was not, I don't think, in the roster for the qualifying games today. So I don't expect that he will make the Olympic roster.
Okay.
I think Eric Rometty will fill that role once Jackson goes to the Olympics, and opening day, I think it's got to be Judson and Jackson though. Yeah.
Okay, and then on the wings, who do you have?
This is where it gets tricky. I think Espinosa is obviously starting on the right. I think he is a lock more than anybody else in the team. On the left wing, I think it's up for grabs. I really do. I think Carlos Fierro played well at the end of last season. I think he started to show signs that he could really take that claim, that starting spot. But I think it's up for grabs. I think Cade Cowell could, if he's continued to improve at the rate that he has been improving over the last couple of years, I think he could make a significant case, a really good case for that to be his starting spot. And then Shea Salinas. I still think that Shea Salinas in a pinch could start on left wing. So my guess is that he'll go with Fierro, and then second in the depth chart is probably Kate Cowell. But I think that's one of the spots where it's sort of up for grabs. And some people have actually been saying, hey, the Quakes should really go out and buy another left winger. Some people are saying that that's a hole in the line. And I don't really see that, just because between the three of them, between Shea, Cowell, and Fierro, I think they've got it covered for now. But some people are a little bit concerned about that. I'm not so much so right now.
And then in your attacking options, who do you have at your 10? And then who do you have as your striker?
I mean, it's got to be Chofis at the 10, right? You're not going to go out and sign a player like Chofis and not start him at the 10. So I would be really concerned if it weren't Chofis, right? If it's not going to be Chofis, that means it's a total bust, right?
Yeah.
But I anticipate that it's Chofis, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, a DP9. If not, it's probably going to be. I actually really don't know. If they don't sign a DP9, I really don't know if they're going to start Chris Martelowski or Andy Rios.
Right.
And the reason is because Rios is much more of a number 10. He's much more of a. I think he's not a like for like with sort of Chofis, but they're kind of similar. He plays similar roles. So to have both Chofis and Rios would be a little awkward. I think so. I'm not entirely sure if they don't sign a DP9, who will start up top. My guess would be Rios, but it could be Wando as well.
Yeah, and Andy Rios was kind of stepping into that Magnus Eriksson role at the end, where he was making those long diagonal balls. That was starting to happen at the end of the season. So he was looking okay in that role. So maybe he comes in as a sub for Chofis if he's a little tired, or maybe he's not on the best fitness and he needs to get subbed off at the 65th minute. Who knows, right? So it's great to have a player like Andy. I know people are going to hate this, but it's great to have a player like Andy Rios on our bench, right? So he could be a starting caliber player. I know he's really streaky at times, but I was rewatching some of his goals last year, and some of them are wonder goals. So maybe if he finds some consistency and score some goals, we can see some more goals from Andy Rios.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you say, that's a really important point, is that he can also play 10 if Chofis isn't fit, because there are definitely fitness concerns about Chofis. So I think that's really important to have him there as backup in that number 10 role.
Right. All right. So what player are you most excited for in 2021?
What player am I most excited for? Well, there's a lot of different ways to answer this question. I am really excited for Jackson Yueill because he's going to be probably going to the Olympics, and I would love to see him do really well on the international stage and sort of make a name for himself in this tournament. I think this is a huge opportunity for him to put himself on sort of an international stage and establish himself there, and potentially even, attract a lot of eyes from Europe. I think this is sort of his time if he wants to make that leap. So in that sense, I'm really excited for Jackson Yueill. For the Quakes, I've already said that I am sort of watching out for Jacob Akonurich, and also obviously Kate Cowell. I think Kate Cowell, made huge strides last year, and I hope he continues to make huge strides this year as well. So those are probably my three answers. I'm really curious how Chofis is going to do. Really curious if they sign a DP number 9, how that'll work out. And also Lopez, right? Lopez had a really good season last year, and I hope that he can continue to improve on that as well. So those are probably the guys I'm watching for the most right now. There isn't a clear-cut answer for me, but I think their season will probably hinge a lot on if those players can step up to the plate this year.
No, definitely. And on a lower level scale, Eric Calvillo actually just got his El Salvadorian passport, so we actually might lose him to the Olympics if they qualify. So just like how Jackson Yueill might get some eyes on him, who knows? Eric Calvillo might get a large transfer sum come in for him because he performs well in Tokyo. So who knows as well? The same situation for Jackson Yueill.
That would be awesome. I remember I think the last Quakes player to really play on the international stage in a major tournament was, and this is way out of left field. I think it was Kip Colby.
Oh, yeah, New Zealand.
You remember
yeah.
Kip Colby playing for New Zealand I think he played
for the playoff
2017 Confederations Cup. I think it was the Confederations Cup. I don't know if he played in the World Cup. I honestly don't remember. But
I think it was a playoff game, and then they got destroyed. But I do remember that playing in the Confederations Cup, Kip Colby, and he wasn't our starter, so it was more like, okay, that's awesome, you know.
I mean, he only ever played like 2 or 3 times for the Quakes, if I remember correctly. So it'll be cool to have Quakes players, sort of playing in major international tournaments again.
Yeah, I mean, if they both make it, I gotta drive myself up to Tokyo and go see them.
yeah. You're local from Japan. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I gotta get the Quakes community some insights. You know, hey, what's Jackson doing today? You know,
camp outside of your team hotel. You know,
right? Okay, where do the Earthquakes land in your standings?
Probably
tough questions. Yeah.
Probably in the bubble again, probably in the 7th, 8th spot.
Okay.
In the Western Conference. Given that they're sort of, as I said before, made 2 steps sideways this year with the Chofis and Abakasi signings, I think they're probably right around the same place they've been really for the last, who knows how long, right? 5-6 years, they've been right in that bubble, and I don't anticipate that changing. And I think with the DP9, they have a really good chance and are probably favored in my book to make the playoffs again. But they're definitely going to be fighting for that. They're definitely going to be in the bubble.
Okay. And what is a successful season for the Earthquakes this year? So is making the playoffs a success? Is getting some silverware some success? Or is making a point like they did last year that they're a hard team to beat a success?
I mean, they've got to make the playoffs. Their success this season will be determined on whether or not they make the playoffs. And that should always be the case. That should be like the minimum expectation for any team in MLS. I think their success will be in large part determined on if they make the playoffs. And, I might be a little disappointed if they make the playoffs and then get slaughtered like 5-0 or something like they did back in 2017. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a kind of disappointing aspect, given that they made the playoffs last year. I would like to see them improve on that and try to make a push for the second round. But I think right now my expectations are probably first round of the playoffs would be kind of expectations met. And I mean, who knows? There's a lot of talk about, whether or not last season was successful. And I think it was. And, whether fans even wanted Matias Almeida to stay, given all of the rumors surrounding his all the rumors linking him to the Chilean national team, Monterrey.
But I think a lot of that has to do with if there was a season, because I even had Flo on it like last week talking about if he's looking at playing at overseas for a couple of months. So I think that rumor mill was all because of the whole CBA situation.
Right.
Yeah,
definitely. But my point was that, even if the Quakes don't have a spectacularly successful year, what I've learned to appreciate about having Matias Almeida as a coach is that it will be phenomenally entertaining either way.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, having covered the team during the Dom Kinnear years, and I think Dom Kinnear is a criminally underrated coach, and I really liked him as a person, and I thought his teams were pretty successful. It's just, it wasn't the same level of entertainment.
Right.
Every Quakes game that I watch now, I turn on the TV or I'm at the stadium, and I think I have absolutely no idea what will happen in this game. The Quakes could win 5-0 or they could lose 5-0. It's, at the flip of a coin. So I've really learned to appreciate, that entertainment and the fact that they are so, electric and so exciting. And so even if they don't have an incredibly successful year, I'm still very, very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I turned on the J League here because the first game of the season was, I think, last week, but I turned it on and I was like, oh man, this looks like Earthquakes football, pre Almeida. So I'm like, oh man, I need to actually cherish, Almeida football, because like you said, it's entertainment. And I was like, man, I'm falling asleep watching this J League, but you got to do what you got to do. But seriously, we do need to appreciate the entertainment value. If we lose 7-1, we're going to feel that loss really hard. But when we win the next time, it's going to be like, oh man, like all this weight. So it's definitely really entertaining. And
absolutely.
To round this off, I mean, we appreciate you coming on. The last thing we're going to ask you is, what's your Tectonic take of the 2021 MLS season? I know you said a hot take, but maybe this is a little bigger than that hot take.
Tectonic Take. Oh my Lord. I might have to think about this one for a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm the biggest Andy Rios stan. All right. I'm going to say this. I think Andy Rios is going to have more than 10 goals this season. All right.
That's not, yeah, I think that's actually reasonable. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I'm trying to think.
Vega gets a green card.
Oh gosh. Well, actually, we can talk about that for a second, because I think that is really incredibly important.
Right.
If they're not entirely sure that Vega is going to get a green card, then re-signing Vega was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because, that is a really valuable international spot.
Definitely.
And, they might have to trade to get another one to fill out all their roster needs, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's really important that Vega gets a green card, and it would be it would have a tectonic impact if
definitely
on the way that Fiorinelli tries to construct his roster. I would say that my tectonic take is that Chris Wondolowski has another double-digit season.
Okay,
I think it's in him.
Okay,
and maybe that's not a tectonic take.
No worries.
Basically done that for the last 5 years, but I think he has still has a lot of doubters. So I think he's still got that in him. I would absolutely love to see that happen.
Jamin was on the pod last week and he said he's going to have a 15-goal season. Do you want to say 16
goals?
No.
I'll go say, do I want the over or under on that? I'll take 14. I think he's got 13 or 14 goals in him. And actually that's dependent on if the Quakes sign another 9. If they don't sign another 9, I think he could go 15 plus. But if they do, and then Chris Wondolowski is the backup, then probably closer to 12, 13.
All right. Well, Alex, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Again, where can people catch you? Black and Azul, right? And
yes, Black and Azul. You can find me on Twitter at Quakes_talk. My written work is on quakestalk.com. And I'm really looking forward to this season and appreciate the opportunity to join you on the show.
Yeah, and thank you. And all I have to say is go Quakes.